Okay, hello. I am showing you how I have to sit here. I'm just going to record. I'm sorry about how I look. I'm just going to record. You can see I'm not touching anything. And I just want you to count the shots that you can hear. I am being mauled to bits. They are machine gunning really hard. They've got every day. They are shooting all the way through, but there are several times, like 3, 4, 5, 6 times per day, where they ramp on the machine gunning. And I can just hear shots bounce off. They bounce off, you know, well, if I'm not protected, they just shoot through my thyroid, my head. And as soon as I put protection on, you can suddenly hear it. Sorry, I look like an utter mess. Oh, there was one shot that just bounced off here at the edge. I'm just going to sit quietly. Let's just listen, just for a few moments. Shots there. Shots again from this side. There's a shot down there. There are also shots being fired into my arm. It's extremely painful, and into my hand joints actually as I'm holding them, because they can see. Can you hear the shots? Because where I'm sitting, they are absolutely all around me. Shot, shot, shot. That was just one. A shot just... I'll show you how I have to sit here in a moment. So I'm already in an alu bunker, and this is where I sleep every single night. I sleep under my desk. Oh wow, there were loud shots just to my left. Now let me so I readjust, because sometimes there are small gaps in my shielding and it really hurts. There are literally hundreds of shots being fired, but some of them are not as intense, and some of them hit me in body parts that, you know, do not have shielding. Can you hear these? Okay, so usually when I start talking out loud, it kind of calms down a bit. When I decided I want to start filming, it was going absolutely insane. So now it's a bit quieter, but still I get shot at with literally, it feels like hundreds of shots per minute. You know, absolutely hundreds of shots per minute. Because I'd feel, it would start off when one of these Nazi nutters at my neighbor's home has got a shift, and they will just machine gun. Okay, it's now 1 AM 20 here in Switzerland. It's past 1 AM, and these people have a machine gunning shift, so of course there must be a shift service, or these machine guns are just placed down, electromagnetic machine guns, and they're just firing to their heart's content. So actually I'm receiving a lot of shots into here. Let's see if we can actually make some out. Okay, sorry, there will be some more shots, I'm pretty sure. I've got like, as I'm sitting, I'm protecting my lower legs with the baking tray. This is brilliant. Anything that's solid metal is great. Also, I am entirely wrapped. I'm not sure if you can see, but I'm entirely wrapped in aluminium to protect my lower half. I've got aluminium in my lap, and I have absolutely wrapped my legs, because they're machine gunning me like crazy. I also had to protect my thyroid, and I'm wearing this helmet, and don't be scared, because under the helmet you can just see how many injuries I sustained. I'm not wearing makeup, so you can see this is because these people are trying to shoot into my forehead, because I'm a scientist, so they think my brain is the most dangerous weapon So you can just see what intelligence agencies do to you when they want to really attack you. Okay, so I'm being machine gunned non-stop. Let me just take this off briefly so that I can talk to you. It's a bit better than a moment ago. So what are we going to do, people? First of all, we're going to... So the intelligence agencies only have one method, okay? And that is machine gunning. If they don't like what we're doing, just listen to the shots. It's absolutely unbelievable. Occasionally you will hear really hard knocking. I swear it's not me. My elbows are just leaning on the chair. But I'm just surrounded in this aluminium bunker. And the intelligence agencies only know one thing, which is they're just maiming and mutilating. So if they just want you to shut up because these crimes are being uncovered everywhere around the world, they're just assaulting people more and more with the methods they have. So in France, Frédéric Laroche went through an intelligence agency entrapment operation where they staged a car accident. A lady jumped onto his windscreen and then pretended that, you know, she was so badly injured. They put him into psychiatry. They took his car away. It's like big fucking CIA spectacle by French intelligence, you know. Melanie Richan, my colleague in Belgium, she is preparing a court case against these Nazi nutters in Belgium. What do? They take her baby away. They put her into psychiatry, yada, yada, yada. She's out of psychiatry, but they still haven't given her baby back, you know. So that's what they do. In Germany, Dr. Reinhard Munzert was talking about these weapons already 17 years ago. What do? They try to put him into psychiatry. I mean, it's getting a bit trite, doesn't it? It's like fucking retarded, you know, morons just can do the same thing. It's like kill, psychiatry, kill. Like, that's it. That's intel for you, okay? But because these people are so fucking dumb and they have got bits missing in their brain because they're psychopaths, they will not learn, okay? So they will go on like paranoid schizophrenia, kill, like literally to the very fucking end until we just jail them for good, you know? So this is what's happening. But what we'll do over the coming months is literally learn at fast speed what's actually going on. So what you have to learn is the following. There are different ways to cause pain, okay? And the victim, sorry, I'm just being shot in the eye. I'm being shot in the eye as I'm trying to talk to you. It's so painful. So, okay. There are different ways they can cause pain, and you have to learn to distinguish between them. Number one is these pulsed energy shots. The way you can find out, let's say your leg, your knee starts aching intensely suddenly, and you think it's a weapon. What you do is you buy a roll of aluminium, okay, baking foil, and please buy the thicker version, buy the thickest version you can, not the cheapest stuff, okay? This is great because it's really thick. And you wrap your knee, alright? You put it down and you wrap your knee around several times, or whichever. If it's your arm aching or whatever. If it's your chest, or, you know, like me, they're shooting into my heart and into my organs. You wrap your chest and you will not care about looking like Lady Gaga. You will just wrap yourself. And then you will just stop. And it's literally like you've got foil on you, and then you stop and then you listen. So number one, if tissue has been hurt really badly, what you have to know is that it takes some time. It takes some time for the pain to die down, because the entire tissue will be sensitive, the nerves will have been damaged, and it takes some time. And when you have waited for a bit, you know, and you've kind of calmed down and the pain is dying down, listen carefully if you can hear any shots bounce off the aluminium. Because if it's thick aluminium, if there are 2 or 3 layers, they can't get through. These shots are bouncing back, they are reflected back, but when it's hitting the metal, it's a very fine tick, and not quite like that, but it's very tick, 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 very, very fine, but quite telling. And it's because these pulses are traveling at the speed of light. The noise you will hear, especially when you make, you know, you take an audio recorder and you record this thing, and then you use software, for example, Audacity, that's a free software. You can just drag and drop the audio file, and then you can see an actual, you know, graphical display of what these shots sound like. Now on Audacity, electromagnetic shots look like very sharp bars. It's just a single bin in time, and it's sick. That's what the sound is. Why? Because these things travel at the speed of light. Like a bullet out of a gun is not traveling, not even at this, well, some travel, you know, at the speed of sound or above, because that's why it makes a loud bang sometimes. It's not just the explosion, you know. But, you know, but even that is slow in comparison to the speed of light. So when you're being shot at with the speed of light, it just goes tsk, you know, when it actually hits the aluminium. So you can hear this stuff. And when you're being hit at night, please, please start with your windows. Because windows, they are transparent, completely transparent to these microwave energies and these pulsed microwave shots. Walls are also transparent, but only to 50%. So that's like milky glass, okay? Glass is like glass to these frequencies. But if you put aluminium foil and you kind of like either let it hanging down, like really loosely like that, that works. Or you actually, you know, fix it at the bottom. What you can do is at night, while you're sleeping, please turn on an audio recorder that you can buy for $20 or $30 in the shops, an audio recorder, place it next to the window or next to the foil and record it at night whilst you're sleeping. Because if you start hearing these tick, tick, tick shots, what it is someone aiming through the window and hitting the aluminium, you know. If you've got shutters outside, then that's good. You know, alu shutters should block this stuff, but some shutters look like alu and they're actually plastic, which is totally transparent. So, number one for court cases is you learn to actually detect these pulsed energy projectiles. This is what they're called, pulsed energy projectiles. And that's what's being fired out of an electromagnetic machine gun. Those things don't fire bullets, they fire these really damaging shots. It's like the power of your microwave put into a pulse. When it hits tissue, it is damaging your bone structure, it's causing leukemia in long term, but it's also causing, I believe strongly, osteoporosis, you know, and all these sort of things, but it's extremely painful. And also, you know, it's damaging your tissue. If you're being shot at by one of these things, depending on how you're being shot at, like I, for example, am sometimes just shot at with one pulse. Like I would get a pulse to the back of my head, and suddenly my head goes poof, like this. And what happens? Oh, I just walked into the kitchen, and I, you know, the pattern recognition picked me out, and I just either triggered a light gate or this thing just shot at me from my neighbor's property. Now, those are individual, very intense pulses, and when you're being shot in the head like that, you will know. You will know that. But then there are other ways. For example, I discovered that when you have intense pain, it feels like, oh, almost like rheumatic pain. Like, oh my God, it's really like drawn out. What it actually is sometimes, it's a lot of really fast pulses, and it just goes and it's just hitting you like 1,000 shots per minute. And every single hit is causing you an impulse of pain, but because your brain can't process it, it just feels like long, dull ache. Really intense, long, dull ache. Again, if you use this, your ear might just about be able to see, to actually tell this apart, okay? So you will certainly start hearing clicking sounds on this. Okay, so that's what you have to learn. So these are pulsed energy projectiles. Now the other thing is that if you have, especially with joint ache, or an ache that you always have in the same part of your body, it could be a chip. And these chips can go there by two ways. Either you have, like me, a lot of laser surgery scars. I've got laser surgery scars on the back of my neck. I didn't know. I didn't know until a dermatologist who was an expert in laser surgeries actually looked at it and discovered it. I've got laser scars on my lip. My lips were cut open like that by Intel, and also like this along the rim. I've got a ton of chips on my forehead, on my scalp, absolutely everywhere. And up until a couple of months ago, I was totally oblivious. So you can be absolutely loaded to the hilt with chips and not know anything about that, okay? Don't get stressed. What I observed is that the women have got a fairly easy time to come to terms with this, because we women, we tend to be violated every which way as we go through life, and we just think, oh yeah, chips, okay, yet one more thing. With men, and I'm preparing the men now, it will come as a shock to you that you might also be chipped. Okay, so another guy actually went out, or another, sometimes even just teenager, just went out and actually violated your body. A lot of men have got, you know, big ego issues to actually admit that that's the case. But that's also normal for men, okay? So you're not odd if you have issues with that. It just seems to be the case. So you just have to come to terms with it, okay? Like, there's no way just denying it and going la 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 if this is how they're assaulting you. Okay, so if you even think, even if you have a whiff of a hunch, of a vague inkling that you might be chipped, please scan yourself. So on my website, if you go to stop007.org, you go to FAQ, that's the little figure sitting on the big question mark, that's the FAQ site, and there's a link to devices which takes you to the bottom of that page. You will see all the devices I'm using, and most of which have been stolen from me just a couple of weeks ago, but there's one device especially called the Atseco bug detector, and it's the cheapest device I could find that has the broadest range. It goes from 1 megahertz to I think 6 gigahertz or something like that. So this means most chips that you might have in your body can be picked up with that thing. And it's explained how you can use it. And if you go to my YouTube, which is again Stop007, you will see on my starting page on YouTube, you will see a playlist called Detecting Nazi Implants. Take the time to watch the videos, see how I am struggling and succeeding with that little bug detector to find these little body implants. Because you have to know several things about the body implants. Number one, they don't emit frequencies all the time. They sometimes go radio silent. And they can be radio silent for sometimes minutes on end. So if you don't find it at a particular point in time, it could be because they're radio silent, but will start up in 5 or 10 minutes. Number two, these things are very fine wafer chips, and it seems to be the case in my experience that they are emitting radiation in a very fine focused plane. So this means if you line the bug detector with that plane, so the actual antenna, you can pick it up. If it's kind of transverse to the emission plane, or to actually the point where it's radiating and you're not hitting it, then you will not see anything. So above every point on your body, you have to kind of like move the antenna around like that and see if the signal actually picks up anything. With time, you will learn how to show these bugs. It seems to be the case from looking at past victim cases who have found chips in themselves that the particularly strong emitters tend to be on the top of your head or the back of your head or the neck. Okay, so these 3 points are usually the strongest emitters. Some people have got extremely strong emitters in the ears as well. And I suspect that a lot of V2K, voice to skull victims, will have extremely strong emitters in the ears, because the voices that you hear, to the best of my current knowledge, is not microwave hearing or something, but you actually, somebody pushed, probably with a syringe, a little chip into your ear canal, into the tissue, and is now broadcasting the fucking messages that they broadcast to you 24/7. You know, that is, I think, a little tiny radio that was pushed into your ear. And I think it's both a speaker, a tiny speaker, and it's also tiny, what's it called? A microphone, I suspect. So these people will try to hear everything you're hearing and then talk at you. But either way, the signals that are sent to these chips are digital. So my colleague, Dr. Millicent Black, she, on a hearing test, the person doing the test said, oh, you've got all these like analog, this Morse code going into your ear. Well, Morse code is like doot, 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 doot. In other words, it is an analog signal. It's on, off. Yes? 0, 1, 0, 1. That's an analog signal. So if you have an analog signal, you can send, I mean, you know, TV used to be analog and stuff like that. So you can send movies, audio, everything through analog signals. So if this is what this is, the entire shit that you're hearing 24/7 will be sent to this chip, which is then processing it into sound. I think this is what's happening. Okay? Now, the way you can start unraveling the whole V2K bullshit is to buy yourself this bug detector. If you don't have the money, please use crowdfunding, please, because crowdfunding also draws attention and actually informs even more people that this shit is going on. Okay, so crowdfunding is great. Don't just stop and say, oh, I don't have the money and I'll never have the money and I'll just sit here. No, get yourself the bug detector. If you find a better one, get that. I'm not getting any money for advertising this bug detector. Just get yourself a bug detector and start. Okay, because you can measure these chips. So that's the thing. And if you found out that you've got a chip and it's in an area of your body where you've got pain, that's very good. Okay, So that's already really good for court cases. When you're measuring yourself with this bug detector, like I did, put on a webcam or put on your smartphone, turn it on record, and actually you can do this in front of the bathroom mirror, like scanning yourself, you know, put the little camera on a shelf or somehow find a way to fix it somewhere to the mirror to actually film you. Okay, meanwhile in the mirror you're looking at yourself and you're trying to scan, say, the back of your head. Okay, you can do that, but please record, because I think you will, if you've got chips in your body, I think you will record super evidence doing that. Up until now, Melanie, Richan and I, we scanned each other and we found chips. She was the first one to actually find the chip in my neck, you know, and she knew it was there because she's seen so many victims actually, you know, chipped. She actually said to me, I was scanning her because she knew she had chips, so just to learn how to use the detector. And then she said, oh, I'm going to scan you. And she said to me, I think you've got a chip in your neck. Let me just hold it there. And it just went beep, beep, beep. Yeah, of course I had a chip in my neck. So that was the first time ever I found out I was chipped. This was just, I think, this spring or early summer. So, so Melanie, myself, I think Ramola is chipped as well. She talked about it. She scanned herself. I was actually watching her live over Skype, and she held it to the back of her head, and of course this thing went off. I think Frederic Laroche, he is chipped as well, and he's discovering it as well. So all these people who are currently involved in big, you know, litigation, it turns out they're all chipped. And my personal opinion is that a lot of this stuff is being done with chips. You can put chips into different body parts. You can even ingest chips. You can also ingest nanotechnology that then migrates into your brain and assembles itself. I mean, it's like a cabinet of nightmares. But also you can ingest these microbots and nanobots, okay? And they can migrate to a certain part of your body and then lodge themselves there. So a million things are possible. Okay, and do not discard this implant idea, because it is a multi-billion, trillion, whatever industry, making these little implants and nanotech and all this sort of stuff, you know, nanobots and this stuff. So I think that's a very, very big part of it. And depending on where you have the pain, or depending on how you're set off, like if you're made to throw up, for example, or if you're made to feel really sick, it could be that there's something in your stomach, but it could also be that there's pulsed energy shots just hitting your sternum. That makes people sick as well. Okay, so again, try to wrap yourself in alu, because a lot of us experience that if we wrap ourselves several times, we get instant relief. You know, after the pain of the injury actually dies down, you just think, oof, that's a lot better actually. And that's why, because this stuff is blocking out the pulsed shots. Now, alu, it's, I think, more difficult if you've got, like me, chips on your head. I might have them in the head as well. To block the signals to your head is very difficult, because with these radio frequencies, just like your mobile phone reception, it's very difficult to block it 100%, okay? And that's because if you've got pulsed shots, it's obvious. You know, a pulsed shot comes, bounces off an actual obstacle, like reflecting metal foil. That's easy. But when you've got mobile phone signals, it's diffuse radiation. It reflects off the walls and yada, 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 goes through gaps and, you know, scatters and disperses and da-da-da. But you can still send a text message. This is diffuse radiation, and it's all encoded in the signal that's picked up. And I think our chips function the same way. So if you wanted to totally block your head chips, you would have to totally wrap your little head, which means then you can't breathe. Okay, so I have some success. If I'm wearing a helmet, like literally like that, as stupid as it looks, I have, you know, some success in actually blocking the pain, both from the chips that are being set off, but also the direct shots. But I am not 100% successful blocking the attempts at neuroteching. Now, you might want to try jammers. That's possible. I personally don't have enough knowledge, and I haven't tried any jammers yet. And I don't have the money to buy myself like an anti-stingray thingy, you know. So I'm not onto the jammers yet. If anybody has some great experience with jammers and can recommend some technology that works, please, please spread it to absolutely everybody. What else you need to know? Okay, so you need to learn to tell apart direct shots, irradiation, and then implants. And then one more thing, and that is if you've got any sort of shot that goes through your body, right, and these shots do occur, like they can actually shoot through the tissue and hit my bones and give me instant, like almost rheumatic pain. Now if you have, let's say I've got a helmet, right, and this is the downside, I've got a helmet and they shoot at me, all right, and what if they shoot through my face, through my brain, it bounces off the inside of this and then will reflect back. What will happen? I'll get twice the radiation dose. I'll get 2 shots through my head, not 1. So you have to watch out for that as well. And if you're wearing a helmet and you keep getting these like light flashes, like zoom, like that, that means you've got an electromagnetic pulse going through your optical nerve, and your optical nerve is triggered, and that's why you see these like flashes, you know. Or if you close your eyes, sometimes it's much easier to see, you know. That means you either have to have extra shielding, like protecting yourself from another direction so that it doesn't go into your helmet, or you have to take your helmet off until you figured out where it's coming from, or you have to have extra shielding, okay? It's very hard. They do that with me. I have to sleep with a helmet, and I have done for the last couple of months, because my head is being, as you can see, I'm not lying, these are, every single one of those is a shot to the head that was so bad the tissue either discolored, right, because the pigments changed, or because it actually inflamed because the tissue was locally cooked. So you can just see what a big fat problem my brain is to the NDB here in Switzerland, right? This is like, oh my God, you know, a total war situation. We have to take out Katherine Horton's brain, because if she's allowed to continue, she will rip our testicles off. And I think that assessment is correct. So, you know, good on them to have recognized that. But anyway, we will continue, and we will want their testicles on a silver plate by Christmas. That's the goal. So guys, I want you to buy a lot of alu. Also know that the expression tinfoil hat comes from the 50s and 60s, where this baking foil still had tin in it. These days it's just alu, it's called alu foil or baking foil. So when people talk about tin foil, they're using a CIA disinfo term, PSYOP term, from the 50s and 60s, okay, when there was still tin in this stuff. There's no tin in it now. So what that means, and why was it the 1950s and 60s? Because that's when the CIA started shooting people in the head with these electromagnetic guns. Okay, that's how old they are. All right, now it's not about finding out how much damage they can do with that. They do know that. It's about how much targeted damage they can do, probably with interfacing with nanotech we might have in our bodies, or chips, or just training up young little grunts to actually go out and, you know, commit genocide in your country and stuff like that, okay? But first of all, why did they have to discredit people? Because, you know, tinfoil hat doesn't do justice to my tinfoil corset or tinfoil knee protection. And it's because the human brain is always the most sensitive, and that's what the war is really, you know, about. And also, if you brain damage somebody, you can put them in a home, you control them, you can run pharma experiments on them. So what they had to do is humiliate and ridicule people who actually knew how to protect themselves. So if the CIA says, oh, tinfoil hat, you have to think, shit, the most important thing is a metal hat. I have to have it, you know, on ASAP, because that's what they're trying to discredit. It's a bit like, you know, the Nazi gas chamber people telling you, oh, don't wear a gas mask. Just breathe in the fresh mustard gas. Great, isn't it? Well, it's not. It's deadly. Okay, so if this is being shot into your joints, like for me, you know, it will damage your bone structure. It will do all sorts of horrible stuff. If it's shot into your organs or into your brain, it's damaging you really badly. So you have to start shielding. Okay, you have to start exploring everything. If the shots become so intense that alu isn't good enough and it starts bouncing off, you have to go one up to lead. Okay, lead shielding, because lead doesn't just, it absorbs this stuff. It doesn't just, you know, reflects it necessarily. Okay, because of its certain properties, it's quite a, you know, it's a dampener for certain particles, and also you can't shoot through. And that's why lead, if you can afford lead, that's great. And if you, for example, if you watch the that documentary, the Vice documentary about targeted individuals, which was an entire total psyop disinformation movie, and we will take those people to court, by the way, over that. Don't you worry, we'll take them over to court. But inside, in that documentary, you will see a lady in, I think, London, and she is showing how she has to protect herself with this head protection made of lead and a lead cover. And those covers are typically patient covers when you are doing x-rays or something in hospitals, like a big cover. And she says that that's really helping her. So if your targeting is extreme, just get crowdfunding and get yourself one of those lead covers. Please just do. Try it out, okay? The cost of the lead cover will get back in the court cases. We'll charge the intel agencies for the shit we had to buy just to try to continue living. So that's what I'm saying. Please get the equipment. I'm also going to put out an equipment list. If you go to stop007.org and then FAQ, you have to scroll down. I have to tidy up the page. But go to FAQ with the big question mark. Click on there. You have all the measuring devices that I'm using. But I have to add to it because there are other devices you need to have. Number one, an audio recorder. You have to buy an audio recorder and you have to have it on you, and if people give you any bull crap, you turn it on and you record the conversations covertly. It doesn't matter what the laws say in your country, you first record this because the evidence of any sort of criminal acts against you is the most important. You just record it covertly, okay? And then after that the lawyers can figure out if it's admissible in court. But that's very important. So have this on. Always have enough spare batteries. Always have, enough storage space on this. If something happens, record it. Number two, you need a digital camera, even if it's the cheapest thing you can buy. Just get one and have it on you, but buy a digital camera that is not connected to Wi-Fi. No Wi-Fi capabilities. Why? Because as soon as it has Wi-Fi, this thing can be turned on and the intelligence agencies can remote control this thing. So they can wipe stuff, they can change the settings, they can disable it, yada, yada, yada. You don't have these problems if this is, not the fanciest version and no Wi-Fi. So have this. Have your phone on you, okay? Your mobile phone. You can operate your mobile phone in flight mode. And this means if you're carrying it in your pocket, you don't get exposed to this massive amount of radiation. Because your mobile phone every 30 seconds sometimes, when you're not making a call, or certainly every minute, will try to, log into a base station. So this massive amount of radiation actually goes through your body, goes to through your reproductive organs when you have it in your pocket. Not good. But when you have it in in airplane mode, Flugmodus in German, in airplane mode, you don't have this radiation, it's off. If you've got a measuring device, you can even check if it's really off, or if the intelligence agency sabotaged it or not. Now, if you're using your mobile phone as your camera, I still think you have to have a backup. You have to have a digital camera. You have to have redundancy. This is what it's called in engineering. Redundancy means that you have 2 or 3 ways of doing the same thing. Should something fail, you've got a second thing to fall back on, and should that fail, even a third if it's required. But if you're using a mobile phone, the first thing that seems to happen is, number one, images seem to be strangely sometimes deleted from the mobile phone, by some GCHQ NSA type of method. But the most common thing that happens is that suddenly the mobile phone battery gets drained. Poof, like that. And already in the UK there were mainstream newspaper articles about how protesters in London had their mobile phones drained by the Metropolitan Police with these Stingray-like devices so that they couldn't record the footage of police brutality or police shenanigans. Yeah? Now, if that happens to you, what you'll go out and for $20 you'll buy yourself what's called, I think this is called a power bank or something like that. And this is a little thing that you can connect. It has a USB port and a port that's like for your mobile phone. And this is just a charger. It holds charge. Now, when it's not connected to anything, to my current knowledge, although the intelligence agencies might surprise me, to my current knowledge, if it's not connected, there's no way to drain this thing because the charge has to go somewhere, so you can't. Okay? So if it just sits like that, put it in your handbag, and this will give you an extra entire full battery life, sometimes even more. Okay, so keep this in your handbag and make sure that when you charge your mobile phone, you also make sure that you charge this, should this become empty. Okay, if you don't use it, you don't have to charge it every day, like your mobile phone or something. But make sure you've got one of these, and as you get the warning from your phone, oh, you only have 5% left, you plug this in. And also carry the short cable with it. So you just attach this to your mobile phone, and then they can't drain the battery. Okay, simple trick. Or they can drain the second load as well, but the more times they drain the battery, I think some people notice that they seem to be draining the battery by generating heat. I think they're overloading the processors on the phone. Generating heat when the entire processing is getting, you know, non-linear at the upper edge, it's highly inefficient, generating a lot of heat, and that's where a lot of your mobile phone battery gets dissipated. In other words, your mobile phone turns into a little pocket heater, you know, and that's where the energy goes and your battery life goes, you know. Now, if they do it with your full mobile phone battery, and then with a full load of this, your phone will turn very, very hot. And you will notice, and you will immediately know what they are doing. Should your phone really turn very hot, what you do is you go up to a person, you know, ideally you have your audio recorder on, and you say, sir, can you just touch this phone? Do you have the impression it's unnaturally warm? Because I'm sorry, my hands, you know, I've been touching it for so long, I can't tell. Is this like really unnaturally warm? And then you record an independent member of the public, how this guy says, oh yeah, there must be something wrong with it. It seems really warm. If that happens, you know how these Stingray devices work, how they're draining your battery, right? I suspect this is how it is because I've seen evidence, but I can't be sure for absolutely every way of draining your battery, okay? So just make sure. I'm just saying, should they try to beat your charger solution, you go the next way up, and then you actually record the fact that they were sabotaging your phone. Either way, you've got evidence. But certainly that should be done. And when you're out and about and you get gang stalkers in the shops, or they're following you by car, or whatever, please don't be shy. Just record all these things. Just record. If it's a lot in the car, I don't like the fact that you're going around filming stuff whilst driving. That's dangerous, okay? And if you've got a car accident, oh, they love that because they can, you know, really go after you. So don't cause a car accident. Rather buy a dash cam. A dash cam you don't have to operate. It's just on all the time. If you're harassed a lot in the car, buy a dash cam. If you don't have the money, then just use crowdfunding again, okay? Spread the word about these crimes. Now, about the dash cam, if you leave the car, just get into the habit of taking the dash cam with you, because otherwise they'll steal it. Or they'll steal the micro SD card or whatever they will come up with. So just, sorry, it's inconvenient, but hey, so is this frickin' war, isn't it? So, dash cam. When you're out and about, please do film the gang stalkers, because some of them are really obvious, and a lot of them will actually, you know, point their little phones on you. This is like an audio recorder, but they will do this with their phones. And I suspect it's because our body chips actually can be communicated with using near field communication that's built in an antenna in these mobile phones. Sorry, this is an audio recorder. I don't have my mobile phone here. So what this means is that these people who are pointing mobile phones at you, what they're doing is they're trying to interface with your chips. And perhaps you notice that you suddenly feel pain, you try to maybe measure it, or you have maybe a piece of metal in your handbag. Some people have these big reflectics, you know, a layer of reflectics inside a large handbag that you can hold to your chest. You're just holding your handbag to the chest as you're sitting in a cafe or something. No one notices, but what you're actually doing is you're shielding your inner organs, okay? Now, some people notice that actually the reflectix suddenly doesn't help. Well, it could be because somebody just pointed a phone at you and activated your chip inside your body, and now you're feeling pain because either the chip is discharging current or somehow doing something, you know? So that's also possible. Okay, so these are all the things you need to know and need to have. If you're a targeted individual as in a victim of the intelligence agencies, what you need is a smartphone. I think it's a good idea to have, or else a digital phone, All right, you need this, you need a separate audio recorder, and I think it's a good idea to buy these things that are separate from your mobile phone. First of all, because they can't be interfered with. This thing is most certainly not Wi-Fi enabled, so it's very hard to interfere with this. It can be jammed, but still, if they jam these little devices, wrap it in alu and just leave the microphone free at the top. You need an audio recorder, and the reason why you need this separately is because sometimes the microphone on these things is much better than on your actual phone, because these are dedicated devices, and they are also sold so that people can record lectures, you know. So you put it up somewhere at the back of the lecture hall, and this thing can then record the entire room, you know. So it also has sometimes a lecture mode, which you know, is actually using much more storage space, but is recording a lot more background noise and faint noises. Okay, so you need a digital camera, you need an audio recorder. If your phone got stingrayed, you spend $20 on a power bank, all right, and you need these things. And then you also need your measuring devices, but first and foremost, what you need is a roll of alu. You know, I am buying something like 10 rolls of alu per week, you know. I just have to, because I get, you know, it gets crunched up. I have to make myself a new helmet every single freaking day or every second day, and on and on and on. That's just what it's like. Let's just be happy that all this stuff is comparatively cheap. It's not cheap, but it's comparatively cheap. So this is what we're going to do in this war. Please record the gang stalkers. The reason why you have to is because these are Nazis. These are little Nazis, and they are all conspiring to commit murder. Some of them don't know, but some of them do. And we have to get them in court. And then once you recorded the faces, you can go to the intel agencies after you've proven that all this is happening to you. And you can say, well, you don't have the right to cover up crime using classification or totally bogus claims of national security, given that what you've just created is the biggest national insecurity we've ever seen in the history. So, because you can't cover up crime, you can't cover up criminals' asses either. And given that these little shitters were on your payroll, we would like to have their names and actually sue them individually for what they have done. So gang stalking falls under the category of certainly psychological terrorism. If they also set off your body chips, or if they shoot at you with directed energy weapons, that's full-on terrorism, you know. But either way, please get their faces recorded. And also keep in mind that sometimes you get a couple of innocent people. But if you build up, you know, an archive of 200, 300 gang stalkers, there might be a small percentage of, you know, of people who are genuinely innocent, but there will be a lot of people who really aren't. Okay? And right now it seems like, oh, we'll never find out who they are, but trust me, as soon as we've recaptured the police and the intelligence agencies, we can find out like that who they are. You know, their faces will be somewhere on Facebook or somewhere else, you know, and most certainly they won't be on the payroll of these intel agencies. So that's the plan. So this is my update here from the bunker. I'm working on the affidavit drafts. It's all coming. It's all ongoing. But you know, if you're upset that it hasn't been done yet, it's because I'm supporting several court cases. You know, Melanie and I had just a mega takedown operation in Brussels in October. And as I'm trying to work on this, I'm being shot at, and I've got these injuries on my face that look so disgusting, to actually prove that this is really happening. So please, 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 you know, get on the case, record the evidence, learn how to tell apart directed shots, implants, you know, get the equipment, the technical equipment you need, and start thinking like a detective. How can you prove this stuff? You know, and start writing up what's actually happening to you. Please, please do, because we are all coming together now around the world. There's a lot of effort happening, and frankly, no one would be doing quite this spectacular assault on me if it weren't for really good reason. You know, because now I've made it public, but they continue because they're so desperate. It's like the only thing that they can do, so they go all out trying to kill me. That's like their best idea. Anyway, they're not the brightest, which is a good news, you know, good thing. Anyway, this is a quick update. I hope you're all fine. I hope you're still coping. Stay tuned, and remember, your injuries can heal, and they will heal, and we'll come together and we'll shut these criminals down. So this is all from me now. I'll log in, you know, check in later. Bye for now. Take care, and do your best to stop this criminality.